Oh, boy, what a day. You're right, Giesen, you're writing a movie about broken bones. I need a cast for it. Oh. Okay. All right, so that's good. Welcome, everybody. So we have Falcon 9, Amazonas Nexus. This is a satellite for Hispasat. It's a Spanish telecommunications company. And it is the first time a Hispasat satellite is flying on Falcon 9, which is really cool. It's going to this. So this is a geostationary communication satellite. It's going to 61 degrees west. So this is basically designed for communications in the Western Hemisphere over North and South America. Hispasat, like I said, global telecommunications. They do TV. TV channels, communications, cell site, whatever. Like they do a bunch of different things.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Their satellites, yeah, they do all kinds of stuff. But it's going out to GEO, which means we got a due east launch out of KSC. Let me see. So this is going out of Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. SpaceX is using booster 1073, which is on its 6th flight. It's going to land on just read the instructions. 58-day turnaround for 1073. 181st Falcon recovery attempt. This is the 19th orbital launch attempt for 2023. SpaceX's 213th mission, the 9th mission of 2023. And Falcon 9's 203rd mission and the 8th Falcon 9 mission of 2023. So we got, pretty good little launch here. Hired 49-month resub. Jeffy, 1 year. Thank you very much. It's going from Slick 40, Corsi. Arc with a 30-month resub. Thank you very much, guys. Let's see now. Let's get that launch coverage up, shall we? The launch is scheduled to go off in about 25 minutes, so we got some time. Oh, boy. Hey, one of you, what's going on? Yeah, sorry about the weird streaming schedule today, guys. It's going to get even weirder. Just on a quick side note, I need to take the rest of the week off for reasons. I gotta go to Michigan for a little while for reasons. I'm not gonna say why. It will become clear in time. So, I'm not 100% sure when I'm gonna be back. I'd say the worst case scenario would be the 13th, so a week from today. For raisins, yes. Dried up fruit. That's why I'm going. Yes. I'm still crossing my fingers for a launch on the first or second week in March. I'll be in Port Canaveral for vacation. You're most likely to see a launch, Kemi. The Falcon 9 goes off every week. You're going to see one more often than not. Chocolate-covered raisins? Yeah. So, I think I know why, but I ain't going to say it. You can guess if you want, but yeah, you probably won't get it. So, yeah, reasons. Something like that. Let's just say that one of these projects that I'm working on in the background has come to fruition and requires my attention. We'll just say that and we'll call it a day, huh? But Kemi, yeah, you're probably going to see one. Retiring from streaming. You're not getting rid of me that easy. The name of the SpaceX barge is Make You Smile Every Time. Culture series. Good series from what I understand. That happens with marriage. Whoa! Yeah, no. Your boy ain't going anywhere. This is something for stream, actually. you really want to know. Should be pretty fun. Mach-E engine in the truck. I don't know. EJ will announce he's a crew member to visit Kerbin. So yeah, once again, guys, I am taking, at the very least, I'm gonna be, I mean, like, I don't know, I might be back on Friday or something, but fat chance. I'm just gonna say, to play it safe, probably Monday. So, museum, yeah, spending the day at NASA too. You're excited? Haven't told the kids yet. My wife will be present. Ford factory tour confirmed. Maybe. You don't know. So you're actually going to stream on Valentine's Day, or as I call it, National Singles Awareness Day. Is weather going to make travel difficult? I don't think so. I'm driving, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. So, yeah, that's what's going on. Don't get me wrong, I really don't like taking a week off right now. You know, especially because we're, you know, we want to get the Kraken drives, we want to get that interplanetary ship all figured out and going from there and stuff, but yeah, I was kind of hoping this project kind of coalesced, so to speak, a little bit earlier. Maybe like a month ago would have been good, but it's okay. You stupid excited. Well, that's good, Hibbit. No, Erudite, it's not built into the design. You can't smart reuse RS-25s. They go all the way to orbit almost. Artificially inflated crunch time. That really is what it ended up being, Bran, isn't it? Yeah, so I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm not stressing out because I want to get everything done in KSP, but I'm kind of stressed out about it. Get done in KSP. So, you know. There's that. Okay, so we should be about 18 minutes out from the Hispasat Amazonas Nexus mission. Once again, this is flying on a Falcon 9. It's a satellite for a satellite telecommunications provider, Hispasat. It's a Spanish company. To date, Hispasat has launched 13 satellites prior, and this is their 14th and their first on Falcon 9. All previous satellites were launched on Ariane 5. Yep, that's a thing. Anyway, hey, Nico, 48-month resub. Godspeed. Thank you. Oh. Where is KSP2 headquartered? Seattle, man. Seattle. Yeah, no. It's not that. It's another project, dude. So how many sats actually made it? Oh, oof, my vans. We should watch this for the anniversary. You linked this a second ago, Mutter. What are we looking at? Oh, no, we're not watching that. No. That's what I thought that link would be. No. We're not watching that. We're not doing that. Yeah, we're not. We're not. Yeah, we don't need to do that. I'm glad it makes you happy. I can't stand the sound of my own voice, dude. I hate it so much. Hey, I had to. I felt threatened. By the rocket. That's why I growled back at it. It growled at me, so I growled back at it. I'm not saying You know, I'm not saying what I did is not saying what I did isn't weird, but yeah, it was a very visceral moment. Drive to Motown, leave Brimo with parents, catch a plane to Seattle. It tracks. Brimo would need to take time off work for that, don't you think? So glad you could join us on your day off. Yeah, Rotor, I take Saturdays and Sundays off nowadays. I work Monday through Friday. Performance-wise, SLS with Starship boosters? What? Time's to launch. We got about 15 minutes, give or take. SpaceX's cast should be going live relatively soon. I was just finishing up the VOD, saw the discussion on guns in space. Yep. Well, crap, I haven't been able to catch a stream as much as I used to. Hey, it's no problem, Rotor. All good, man. All good. Do we know what the inclination will be? Well, it's geostationary transfer, J-Rock, so it's... The azimuth is 90. And if the flight azimuth means 90, that means a parking orbit at 27 degrees inclined. Oh, and just like that, SpaceX is live. Let me fast forward through there. There we go. Ad time. All right, yeah, guys, we'll run ads here, so the pre-roll is disabled during launch. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Hired, for remembering. Hopefully this makes up for my poor attempt at humor. Nah, Rotor, it's all good, brother. Don't worry about it.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
26-month resub. Thanks, man. Like that, Neon? Florida area. Hey, Tech, what's going on?
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Diamond 73 months. Aw.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
72 months. What if we slow it down a little bit? Oof. Yeah, that event's like...
Nice launch check, countdown net, pad is
not
clear.
fun at all.
10, 9, 8,
Launch auto sequence has
7,
started.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go for launch.
Here we go.
Vehicle is supersonic.
Stage separation confirmed. Dragon, separation confirmed.
Stage 1 is transonic. Landing legs have deployed. And Falcon 9 has landed.
Here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Shiva.
It is Monday, February the 6th, and you are looking at a live view of Falcon 9 awaiting its 8:32 p.m.
I know,
Eastern
Christian. I
Time
heard
launch
about it.
from Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Good afternoon. My name is Shiva, and I'm a space operations engineer here at SpaceX. I'm joining you from our headquarters in Hawthorne, California, and welcome to our live coverage of the Amazonas Nexus mission for our customer, Hispasat. Today's launch marks our 208th overall mission and our 9th launch of this year. Our customer today, Hispasat, is a Spanish satellite communications operator, and they provide connectivity solutions to the Americas, Europe, and North Africa. The Amazonas Nexus satellite that's flying today will serve as a replacement for the Amazonas 2 satellite and will cover North and South America, the North and South Atlantic corridors, as well as Greenland. We're going to have a bit more about the satellite a little bit later on in the webcast, but at T-minus 11 minutes, why don't we learn a little bit more about our launch vehicle, the Falcon 9.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ronnie Foreman, and I am a commercial sales manager here at SpaceX. On your screen right now is our Falcon 9 launch vehicle, a two-stage rocket that is designed and manufactured by SpaceX for the reliable and safe transport of people and payloads into Earth orbit and beyond. The entire vehicle on your screen stands just about 229 feet tall, or slightly taller than the towers of Westminster Abbey in England. The bottom two-thirds of the vehicle is the first stage, also referred to as the booster. Its primary objective is to accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere to space and then separate from the rest of the rocket. Not only is the first stage the largest part of the rocket, but it's also the portion that we attempt to land on either our autonomous drone ship or back on land for future reuse. On your screen right now, you see today's landing target, our drone ship. Just read the instructions. Reusability is important as it allows us to refly the most expensive parts of the rocket, which in turn drives down the cost of access to space. True to form, today's booster is flying for the 6th time, having previously supported SES-22, iSpace's Hakuto R Mission 1, and 3 Starlink missions. Moving on up, above the first stage is the second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine on board, which ignites after the first stage separates. The second stage is what will carry the Amazonas Nexus payload to orbit. The payload for today's launch is safely enclosed of the 17-foot diameter payload fairing, which is the large barrel structure you're looking at now with the pointed nose on top of the second stage. Made of carbon composite material, the fairing protects satellites on their way to orbit. The fairing is then jettisoned approximately 3 minutes into flight. The fairing halves supporting today's mission are also both flight proven, with one half flying for the 5th time and the other for its 6th. After separation from the second stage, both fairing halves will return to Earth to be recovered by our recovery vessel, Bob. And lastly, that large truss structure that you see there is the transporter erector, or TE. We use it to roll the rocket out to the pad and raise it to its vertical launch position. The TE also routes the vehicle's fluids, power, and telemetry umbilicals from the ground systems to the rocket and the satellite, until Falcon 9 takes over on internal power and clears the launch pad.
Falcon 9 has been loading propellant since the T-minus 35-minute mark. Now, on Falcon 9, we use 2 kinds of propellants. The first of those is a type of kerosene called Rocket Propellant 1, or RP1. We use that as a fuel. And then we use super chilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, as our oxidizer. Now, the RP1 is nearly fully loaded on the first stage. The second stage is fully fueled, and liquid oxygen loading is underway on both these stages. We'll complete liquid oxygen loading on the first stage around the T-minus 3-minute mark, and on the second stage around the T-minus 2-minute mark. We've also begun loading helium gas into Falcon 9. We use helium as a pressurant, and we use that to push RP1 and the liquid oxygen to the Merlin engines at the base of the vehicle. Now, around the T-minus 7-minute mark, we'll hear some callouts about engine chill beginning on the Merlin engines. That's where we flow a small amount of that super chilled liquid oxygen into the Merlin engine's turbopumps. And that's ahead of the full flow of liquid oxygen as we perform liftoff and fire those engines. Finally, we've got the transporter erector retraction that's coming up around the T-minus 4.5-minute mark. We pull away the transporter erector slightly from the vehicle. That's to provide clearance for Falcon 9 to lift off. And as we get to T-minus 0, it'll pull away further with ground hydraulic systems.
Engine chill has started.
Go and throttle up.
There's the call out there for engine chill. So now at the T-minus 7-minute mark, Falcon 9 continues to look healthy. The payload is on internal power, also looks healthy. We're tracking no issues on the range, and weather, although you can't quite see from the video, is a 95% chance of go today. But if for some reason we don't launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow starting at 5:32 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah. This launch was supposed to go on Sunday, but the weather
As
was
Shiva
not
mentioned
cooperating.
earlier, our mission today is Amazonas Nexus for our customer Hispasat. Amazonas Nexus is using the Spacebus NEO platform developed by Telus Alinea
yes.
Space and will have an innovative all-electric propulsion system on
Stage
board,
1 RP1
making
load
it
is complete.
a lighter satellite and therefore less expensive to send to orbit. You may have just heard the RP1 completion call out there on the nets. So now let's take a second to learn more about today's mission and the payload on board Falcon 9.
Okay, Ronnie, let's.
Hispasat is giving a new boost to its satellite fleet with the Amazonas Nexus. This new satellite will offer state-of-the-art telecommunications solutions in the Ku-HTS band, all across the Americas, the North and South Atlantic corridor, and Greenland. The Amazonas Nexus is designed to provide high-capacity connectivity services in aerial and maritime mobility environments. The satellite will also offer broadband services in remote areas, wherever you are. The satellite also incorporates a payload focused on secure communications, demanded by governmental and defense sectors. The Amazonas Nexus features a digital transparent processor to increase its geographic flexibility and to adapt to market demands while in orbit. Manufactured by Thales Alenia Space on a Spacebus NEO platform, the Amazonas Nexus will be located in the 61-degree west orbital position and will replace and expand the capacities of the Amazonas 2 satellite. Its advanced design, HTS capacity and versatility make the Amazonas Nexus the most efficient satellite in Hispasat's fleet.
You know, I always wonder who these promo videos are for. You know, clearly nobody understands what any of that stuff means, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they shouldn't say it, but also, like, who are these for? They investors, maybe? Investors? Maybe you? I wonder if it's like a Leidos company or something, Bill. No, they're a Redia company.
Transporter erector and the first stage are attached to a launch mount at the base
I'm shopping
of the
around
TV.
for the global telecommunications supplier.
Now that structure is hinged, and we use ground hydraulics to pull that away, further away in preparation for launch. We heard some call-outs there
Nico,
that
let's
we've
just buy
begun
a
to
satellite.
pressurize
Twitch
the
Sat
stage
1.
in preparation for strong back,
It's a good idea.
recline, and for the strong back fully reclining.
What?
We're about 20 seconds away from our next major milestone. That'll be liquid oxygen loading complete on the
Amazonas
first stage,
worldwide.
followed around the T-minus 2-minute mark by a similar call-out on
They
the
did say
second
they'd
stage.
help with
When we're fully
nautical
loaded.
navigation arcs. So.
Oh, there we go. Call out for first stage, locks load complete. Now when we have full propellants loaded on Falcon 9,
Stage
we've
1
got
Pogo.
about 1 million pounds of both RP1 fuel and liquid oxygen. And you see some clouds forming around the
Zeppelin,
first
what did you
stage
say?
and the second stage.
Well,
Those are
Falcon 9, but I
totally
want more
normal.
Starship hype news.
The
Soon.
liquid oxygen that we're loading is extremely cold. And as those tank skins end up coming into contact with the moist Florida air, water vapor condenses around them and produces clouds around the vehicle. That produces that white-looking gas.
Fellas, note
around
the
Falcon 9.
foundations that they're digging right here. Foundations for a crew launch platform. True story.
So coming up, next major milestone will be liquid oxygen loading complete on the second stage. Following that, we will
Yeah, you
clear
think I'm
the
kidding?
lines in the transporter erector leading to the stages. Just clearing out the propellants in those lines in preparation for liftoff. And then around T-minus 60 seconds, we'll transition into startup.
Yep. Yeah, right there. It's right over the part that says liftoff. They're putting it, so at first, the first thing that they're going to do here with this, guys, is make a service structure for a cargo Dragon, and then they'll eventually move to doing crew flights from Slick 40. The rumor is that, and it's not really a rumor, Gerstall, but confirmed it. Bill Gerstenmaier basically said that they'll move to eventually do crew from Slick 40 while they send out some Starship prototypes out of 39A. I always want to have a backup capability just in case. You know, if you're going to be launching and potentially landing Starships at 39A eventually, you don't want to risk your crew tower with currently your only way to get into space, right? So they're digging out the foundation for a second crew access arm to have redundant capabilities so they can launch crew from either pad. Why have one when you could have two at twice the price? Also, 39A needs to be taken offline for a little bit while they build Falcon Heavy's mobile service tower. So Falcon Heavy can launch with its extended fairing. So you're going to have to do crew and cargo operations off of 40 while 39A is undergoing renovations. When are you going to see a Starship launch in person?
We're going to watch as Falcon 9 takes Amazonas Nexus
Sure.
to orbit.
30 seconds.
20 seconds out.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
15 seconds.
Laser drifter.
10, 9, 8,
Sound
7,
suppressor.
6, 5,
Sound suppression is
4,
on.
3,
Green
2,
flash.
1. Liftoff.
Hey, everything looks good there.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Everything looked good there.
We're at T-plus 30 seconds into flight. Falcon 9 successfully lifting off from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and we're carrying the Amazonas Nexus
good.
payload on board. Now we've begun tilting the engine, that's called gimbaling, and we've begun to turn the rocket horizontally away from
Power
the
and telemetry
pad.
nominal.
That is called
Good
a
call.
gravity turn. And we're still going up, but we're also heading away horizontally from the launch pad. We just throttled down the Merlin 1D engines in preparation for our next
plus 1
event.
minute,
That's the
everything
point
looking good.
of maximum aerodynamic pressure
What?
on the vehicle, point of highest stresses during ascent.
Max Q.
Okay.
So with that, we are through the point of highest stresses on Falcon 9. Now, the next major milestone will be coming up at around the T-plus 2 minute and 30 mark. That'll be
Do you see
main
it,
engine
Asif?
cutoff, followed by stage separation, and then SECO.
MVAC engine chill.
Excuse me, and second engine start number 1.
Okay, so the call for MVAC engine chill means they're...
Now, I talked a little bit earlier about the gravity turn. Part of the
Priming
reason
second
why we
stage
do
engine
that
flight.
maneuver is to pick up velocity. A rocket has to go about 17,500 miles an hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth. And that's why these next 3 events are pretty important. MECO is where we shut down all 9 of the Merlin 1D engines in preparation for stage separation. That's where the first and second stages will separate, And then we'll start up that Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage for second engine start number 1. It's ultimately the Merlin vacuum
Drop an ambient pressure,
and the second stage that will carry the Amazonas Nexus satellite into orbit around our planet.
Where Falcon 9 is
Again,
flying
those three
right
events
now,
coming
no
up
ambient
in
pressure.
just under 10 seconds.
So the plume expands over time.
Main engine cut off.
Staging.
Acquisition of signal Bermuda.
VOS
Stage separation confirmed.
Good separation. Look, you can see the lights in Florida. You can see
And back
that's
ignition.
Orlando in the background. Satellite Beach is on the bottom left of your screen.
Great views. On the
Daytona's
left-hand
on
side
the
of your
top.
screen, we're looking up through the inner stage.
You can now see it on the first
stage.
stage. See, there's Daytona.
And we've got a view here on the right-hand side of our
Jacksonville right
screen
there.
of the Merlin vacuum engine starting its burn.
Daytona.
This burn will continue about until the
First
T+8
stage
minute
is
mark.
getting lit up because the second stage
Next major
gases are
milestone
shooting
will be
past
fairing
it.
separation.
There's Orlando right there.
On the second stage, that coming
You
up
can see the
at
entire peninsula of
about
Florida,
T plus
nice and clear. You
3.5
see all the way to
minutes.
the Panhandle.
Now that we are outside of most of the atmosphere, we don't need to carry the weight of those fairing halves, so we'll jettison them back to Earth for attempted recovery and reuse on a future mission.
So that's Orlando right there. There's the Space Coast. There's Titusville. Cocoa Beach is right there. Daytona Beach is right there.
Fairing
Jacksonville
separation confirmed.
right there, going off the screen.
Great views from the
Separation
top
fairing.
of the second stage. You can
Looks
see
good
that the fairings have separated. Once again, we'll be attempting to recover these fairing halves for use on a future mission with a recovery vessel named Bob.
It's just about T+4 minutes into today's mission, and if you're just joining us, we had a successful liftoff at 8:32 p.m. Eastern from our Space Launch Complex 40 in Cape Canaveral, Florida, and you're joining us in the middle of the first of 2 planned MVAC burns ahead of satellite deployment. This is a particularly exciting portion of the mission because we have 2 major events happening right on top of one another. Right now, you've got that beautiful view of the second stage engine burn. And coming up at around T+6 minutes, on your screen, you'll see the first stage's entry burn begin. For the entry burn, we will relight 3 of the Merlin M1D engines on board the first stage, starting with the center E9 engine, and followed shortly after that by the E1 and E5 engines,
It shows.
which collectively work to slow down the vehicle as it passes back into the Earth's atmosphere. We need to slow down to reduce re-entry forces, which help us recover and reuse the first stage booster. The first entry burn will be one of
Not
2
launch trajectory for both vehicles.
scheduled burns for the first stage, and you can hear both vehicles are still on track. During the entry burn, Falcon 9 is decelerating by firing those Merlin engines, but we're still moving really fast. This causes the vehicle to fly through Merlin's exhaust gases, also called the rocket plume, and this deposits a layer of soot on the surface of the vehicle. That soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses, and with each flight builds up a little more on the outside of Falcon 9, making it look just a little bit toastier. In the bottom of your screen, you can see that Falcon 9 is still picking up speed
Nice, Matt. There you go.
and continuing to climb on its way to space.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
There we heard the call out that our entry burn has begun.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
If you're just joining us, on the left-hand side of your screen is the first stage re-entry burn, and on the right-hand side, we have the second stage on its way to orbit. We expect this entry burn to last just about another 10 seconds.
Oh, we got a shot of supersonic retro propulsion. Oh, very nice. That made up for the bland commentary. Very nice. Entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
There we have
There's the shot.
confirmation of stage 1
Great
entry
track.
burn shutdown.
Very nice. Very
Reusability
nice.
is key to lowering the cost of spaceflight, which enables more investments in critical scientific research.
That's the second
The
stage
Falcon
over
9
there.
first stage on your
See
screen
that?
that is supporting today's mission
That's the
is
second
about
stage.
to perform its final.
All right, that's enough of that. Did you see that light on the right-hand side of the screen from the first stage re-entering? That's the plume from the second stage. It's the second stage glowing. Up there, you could see the exhaust expand like crazy because it's vacuum. There's
Discovery,
nothing up
go
there,
and
so
throttle up.
it moves out and spreads over a huge area. So it gets backlit, but because we're looking at the back of the engine, we're looking up the business end of the second stage. It's just from a couple hundred miles away. But yeah, that's what that glowing was on the first stage. Coming back down, which is pretty sweet.
Optimized differently.
Go and
The
throttle up.
Merlins on stage 1 are optimized
She's
for
still
sea
talking.
level. These achieve approximately
Turbo guides.
190,000
Stage one,
pounds of
transonic.
thrust during both ascent and
Wild
descent.
class. Thanks,
Fun
guys.
fact, at liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage has thrust greater than 5 747 airplanes at full power and is consuming approximately 700 gallons of fuel per second. By contrast, the
I'm
MVAC
having fun.
engine is optimized for approximately 220,000 pounds of thrust in vacuum,
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
which is, of course, the vacuum of space.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Okay, we got a landing burn on the first stage. Should see the grid.
See that stage 1 landing burn has begun, and in just a couple of seconds here, we will shut down the MVAC engine on our second stage.
MVAC shut down.
There you have it.
You should see the drone ship under the left grid fin. Usually, it'll just make a final
Now we're
adjustment
just-
Landing
here.
leg deploy.
Just awaiting confirmation of nominal orbital insertion for the second stage.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Got a call for
Good call outs
orbit
there.
insertion and good landing by the first stage. Very nice.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Very nice.
And hopefully you heard it through the cheers in the
Expected
background.
loss of signal, Cape Canaveral.
That landing marks SpaceX's 170th recovery of an orbital class rocket, including first stage landings for both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Of course,
The accelerometer on the second stage here, or on the first stage, you see it going from 0 to 1 to 0 to 1. That's the drone ship rocking back and forth. Isn't that cool? The drone ship's moving over the water, so it's going 0 to 1, 0 to 1. The waves from the ocean, the motion of the ocean. I know. Yeah. Hey, I wasn't as cringe as this lady. All right, give me that. It's being picked up on Falcon 9's first stage telemetry, which is cool. I wasn't as cringe as this lady's commentary. Come on now. Yeah, hired. I think they did a full cast for this one because it's a customer's payload and not a Starlink. Wouldn't happen in miles an hour. Oh, God.
Discovery,
Oh,
go
yeah,
and
hang
throttle
on.
up.
That's right. Jazos, 36-month resub. Thank you. What do they do now if it's landed? Well, when they get it back to Florida, they take a crane and they attach it to the top. The crane is carrying a piece that basically hooks up on the same thing that the second stage hooks up on. So the crane has a jig on the top that's basically the bottom of the second stage, and they attach the jig and pull it off. When they pull Falcon 9 off of the drone ship, when it comes back, they put it on a processing stool, which is basically something that it's just basically a couple of beams that hold the thing up by its hold down points. There's 4 hold down points on it. They're in between each of the landing legs. And the reason why they hook it on the hold down points is because they have to fold the landing legs back up. When they fold the landing legs back up, they have another crane come in. They lift it off of the processing stool. Another crane comes in. They hook the second crane onto one of the hold down points, and they turn the thing horizontal and put it on a transporter and send it back to the launch site. I always thought it was interesting that Falcon 9
Loss of signal, Bermuda.
LOS through Bermuda. Okay. I always thought it was interesting that Falcon 9 has too much thrust to hover even at minimum power. They do latch the rocket down, Phantom. There is a vehicle that's built into the drone ship. It taps into drone ship power, and it's on tank treads, basically. It's a big platform with tank treads, and they can retract the tank treads on the thing like landing gear. So the tank treads deploy, and they roll the thing underneath Falcon 9, and they use the tank treads to place it, and then it has 4 robotic arms that grab Falcon 9's hold down points. And then they retract the tank treads, and it pulls it down onto the deck of the drone ship. True story. It's called Octograbber. Yep. My record for in person is 0 for 3. Falcon 9. Yeah, Delta 4. Oh, nice. So, yeah, sucks, man. But it ain't like you miles away, dude, either. How quickly are they turning the first stages around now? About 60 days on average, Dukas. So, 2 months. But they have a huge fleet of boosters. There's like 10 to 15 first stages that, well, maybe not 15. It's like 10 that are active. Hang on, I can check. All right, so let's see what we got. There's a good amount. I'm trying to see if I can look at the spreadsheet a little bit better. So, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Wow, okay, my estimation was right. Yeah, there's like 19 of them. That's including Falcon Heavy side boosters, though. That's a lot of Falcon boosters. I mean, it's so much that they had to basically build... SpaceX had to build a dedicated Falcon 9 processing hangar on Roberts Road. If we go and take a look here... So this is the photogrammetry picture, but if you go right here, this is Kennedy Space Center, right? There's KSC Industrial, right? There's the VAB 39A, 39B shuttle landing facility, right? There's 41 and 40. That's where this launch went from. But if you go over here, right, and you go into the timeline here, oh, clouds. So see that? It's under construction in this picture, but this has long been finished. They built a Falcon 9 processing hangar, and then they expanded it, and it goes around the corner here for rebuilding this because they have such a huge fleet of Falcon 9s. You can actually see them moving a Falcon 9 into the hangar in this picture, which is actually kind of cool. But yeah, that's the main Falcon 9 processing area, and they can also store boosters in the 39A HIF right there. And then they can store boosters in the 40 Pad 40 HIF. You can only store one in there, though. It's not as big as the 39A one. And then you can also store them at their landing sites. They have a storage depot for them there that can hold 2 right there. See that? They can put 2 right there. And then if you back up even more, one of the hangars at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station over here, they could put them there as well. They got plenty of places for all those boosters, but it's kind of crazy that they have to have all these booster processing facilities everywhere. But yeah, they do. It's pretty cool. So, let's see. We're about halfway between parking orbit insertion and second stage engine start here. Should be around the 30-minute mark, T plus 30 minutes here. And the update on Starship. SpaceX is currently aiming for March, but that's pending testing. Worst. Yeah, the schedule's always in flux, guys. You know, it's not just SpaceX that does this, but SpaceX is way more transparent about it than most. This stuff happens. How does the engine not starve of fuel when landing? The fuel should be in the stop part of the rocket, yes? Well, the rocket's under a decelerating force, Violent, and because it's under a decelerating force, all the fluid wants to go forward, namely the fuel. It's going down and decelerating, as opposed to going up and accelerating. The G-forces go in the same direction. It's when you air start an engine that gets a little bit complicated. Is the storage just because they don't have a use for all the boosters all the time, or because they store them for maintenance? They store them for maintenance, Spaceman. The booster needs a little bit. You need to do a pre-flight check on every booster to make sure that it's ready to accept an upper stage. Now, what is that pre-flight check? Well, you got to put the igniter fluid back in the engines. Merlin engines can only restart a certain amount of times during one mission. They use pyrophoric igniter fluid, so you got to refill the igniter fluid cartridges. Amongst other things, I'm sure there's plenty of things that they have to inspect. They have to purge out all the tanks, make sure the tanks are clean, and they have to inspect the welds on the booster if it's a booster that's been flying a lot. You don't want to look for you want to look for microscopic stress cracks in the aluminum, which does happen. Aluminum cracks under stress. It cracks like concrete almost. It's not exactly like concrete. Aluminum is not the same thing, but you have to look for those stress cracks. Hey, Yum Yum. How are you? That speed is quite nice. Indeed. So, Spaceman, they are constantly... basically... It takes a certain amount of time to get a booster ready. Let's say it takes a month. Let's say it takes 2 months. Let's say it takes 50 days, right? Having a lot of boosters in your fleet in various states of recertification for flight, right, means that one is basically like an assembly line, right? One comes back, it goes into processing. And when one goes into processing, another one comes out of processing, and another one's ready to go. This is how you facilitate one launch a week. This is how this happens. One launches. Comes back down, goes back to the hangar, gets refurbished. It moves through the pipeline over the course of a month, course of 6 weeks, 6 weeks to a month. It really depends, right? And when it's ready, all the other boosters that were in line before it have flown. That one goes up 2 months later, goes down, flies again. And that 2 month downtime for that booster, they're launching every other booster that comes out of the. They launch every booster in front of it that's in front of it in line. They queue up the boosters, dude, basically. They do the same thing at Vandenberg. There's more boosters at Vandenberg, believe it or not. Yeah, something like that, Aqualex. Yeah. Must be a pretty massive operation on its own. Impressive all around. Oh, yeah. I mean, Spaceman, there's a reason why we wanted 4 space shuttles. We wanted 4 space shuttles so we could do the same thing. They basically predicted that orbiter turnaround would be about a month, maybe a little bit more. So if you have 4 orbiters, that means you can launch once a week. First orbiter, so Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, Atlantis. Boom, 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 boom. And by the time Atlantis does its mission in the 4th week of the month, Columbia is 1 month removed from its first landing in the first week, and boom, you get to launch it again. That's what they planned on doing. That's why there were 4 orbiters in the first place. 1 month per orbiter, that's actually not bad, Peg. That's about right. If they'd kept going with it. I mean, the orbiters ended up taking about 3 months to refurbish. That's with all of the safety standards and all the extra protocols and stuff built in for safety and whatnot. 3 months is still not insurmountable. You could have 6 orbiters and you could still launch once a week. No problem. That's why Elon always talks about production. How is RCS refueled on Falcon 9? Falcon 9 first stages uses compressed nitrogen erudite, so they just fill it up with nitrogen. It's probably just a pneumatic fitting. Just load it up. But that's what I mean about purging out the tanks. They purge out the tanks to make sure there's no contaminants. That's part of the refurbishing process. You have to make sure the tank is clean, because you basically want to get the booster back to where you started when it first rolled off the assembly line. And if it rolls off the assembly line with purged out tanks, right? Part of the refurbishing process is making sure it's back in that configuration, which is ready for launch. If you do that, it's a good habit to get into, because that means you're going off the same result every time. That's correct, Oculus. That was the plan, at least. You know, they were supposed to launch so much that after the space shuttles were supposed to launch so much that after a half decade, right, you'd have to make new orbiters, because they would all reach their end of their service life. And the shuttles were rated for 100 flights per airframe, which is... I wish. Do we have an idea Crew Dragon's refurbishment turnaround time? Oh. Stand by for a call for acquisition of signal. Little hiccup.
Acquisition of signal, Gabon.
There's a little hiccup between ground tracking station there. They have acquisition of signal through Gabon. I just want a working UK space program. Why did Musk end up going for rockets like this if shuttles with 4 would have been optimum? Yeah, you got to start somewhere. You got to remember, Elon Musk is an outsider. SpaceX was an outsider company, i.e. not a NASA contractor until they became one, right? So they had to start somewhere. You had to start small. Even NASA started with just putting a guy on top of an ICBM, right? Starship should be... Starship is... Oh, we had an onboard there for a second. Starship is supposed to be SpaceX's answer to the problems that the space shuttle was trying to solve, supposedly. Discovery had the highest amount of missions, Hellfish. Discovery had 39. Columbia would have had the highest missions. It was on its 32nd mission when, you know, respect, we lost it. But yeah, I mean, 39 missions, man. That's still low mileage, dude. Very low mileage. Okay, we're back.
Webcast of our Falcon 9 mission carrying the Amazonas Nexus payload for our customer Hispasat. We've had a nominal mission so far. Falcon 9 successfully launched at 8:32 p.m. Eastern from Space Launch Complex 40 in Cape Canaveral, Florida. We also successfully recovered the first stage back on our drone ship tonight. Just read the instructions, which was positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. That marked the 6th landing for this particular booster and the 170th overall landing of an orbital class rocket. The second stage completed its first burn, taking the Amazonas Nexus payload into an initial parking orbit in low Earth orbit. Now we are just about 30 seconds away from the second ignition of the MVAC engine, which will carry the second stage and Amazonas Nexus into the orbit needed to deploy the satellite.
It does, Bill, doesn't it? Okay. This is the transfer orbit here that they're going to put the satellite in here. Should see an ignition here. Green flash.
There you can see on your screen that we've had reignition of MVAC on board the second stage. This burn is planned to last about 1 minute. And during this time, what we're doing is actually boosting both the second stage and the payload from that parking orbit I mentioned into our target geostationary transfer orbit for our customer Hispasat. Just about 30 seconds left in this burn. And obviously, it's a beautiful day up in space.
It's nighttime. Yeah, it looks fine, Hilnis. Everything looks fine. You're going to see some nozzle oscillations here. See? Nozzles weeble wobbling around it. That's totally normal. Now, you know, if they show it, it'll be cool. When they shut it off, the nozzle should... There's the little weeble wobbles.
There on your screen,
Good
we had
shutdown.
second engine cut off too, and we were waiting for a confirmation of good orbit from the nets. At this point, the Amazonas Nexus payload is still attached to Falcon 9's second stage, with payload deploy scheduled to occur in just about 8 minutes. And we do have confirmation of a good orbital insertion for that second burn. So while we wait, sit back, enjoy those views, and check out the space jams once again.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for sure. Maybe a weird question when you want to land from space. You have these huge aerodynamic forces, fire and stuff. Why don't we see that in real life when the rocket goes up? Is that even possible if we try? You can get heating on the outside of something violent. The heating is not... They're not going fast enough in the denser parts of the atmosphere on ascent. Basically, the rocket gets out. It gets out of the atmosphere before you see any entry heating. Oh, entry heating. You know, it'll get out of the atmosphere before that happens. Now, when you're coming back down, you decelerate into the atmosphere. You're going a lot faster at a lot lower altitude. Right? So you're going to see entry heating. Basically, the rocket gets out of the atmosphere as fast as possible. And then when you're re-entering, especially with people coming back down, if you're re-entering and you want to come back down and land, you're going to spend as much time as you possibly can in the atmosphere to maximize braking. Something like that, Tomast, yeah. So long story short, Violet, on the way up, you want to spend as little amount of time inside of the atmosphere as possible. When you're coming back for a re-entry, you want to spend the most amount of time in the atmosphere as possible. So you end up seeing heating on stuff that's coming back down. That's Sprint, other guy? The Sprint missile. Yeah, that experiences shock heating on it on the way up because it's designed to shoot down other missiles. Okay, got a reacquisition of signal. I didn't hear what that one was called. All right. About halfway here to deploy. SpaceX is more or less waiting on the deploy till they get a good signal through the ground station. Now, they got a good one right now, but... Or at least it looks like they do, but... But yeah, I think they'll probably get a better signal up in a little bit here. So you're saying if you don't throttle down during max Q, you may get this heating effect? Yes. The heating effect happens on the way up, Violet. It's just not compressing the gases enough to ionize the air, but it does happen, of course. if you really want to know, the SR-71, X-15, those experience heating like that. The SR-71 went fast enough to experience re-entry heating. That's why they made it out of titanium. Because the titanium, like Falcon 9's grid fins, can withstand the heat. Falcon is a skinny boy, Starship is a weird report. Yeah, something like that. Is there any history of a rocket getting destroyed because of max Q? It's happened before. It happened with it happened with Scud missiles during the Gulf War and the Iran-Iraq War. The Iraqis thought they could just take Scud missiles and give them more fuel to extend the range. And they went to launch this extended Scud missile and it crumpled itself under max Q. True story. Oh yeah, it's happened. Sure. The in-flight abort test. Yeah, that's a good example too, Bill. Falcon 9's in-flight abort. You see what happens when the booster drifts a little bit. Aerodynamic forces basically destroyed that thing instantly. A lot of people thought it was them self-destructing the booster. Nope. Aero forces blew that thing to smithereens. It ripped the first stage right in half. So, after the in-flight abort, Dragon separated from Falcon, and Falcon started to kind of tilt on the way up, and it took aerodynamic forces to the left, snapped the interstage like a twig. In fact, people have pictures of the interstage, the top of the interstage, still attached to a dud second stage coming back down and hitting the water.
Nearing the end of our mission today for our customer, Hispasat. About 7 minutes ago, we had successful completion of our second burn on the second stage. And coming up,
loss of signal, Gabon.
Coming up, we have our final milestone for today's mission, which is payload deployment. That's coming up at about T plus 35 minutes, 44-ish seconds into today's mission. Now, as a reminder, the Amazonas Nexus satellite will serve as a replacement for Amazonas 2 and will provide coverage for North and South America, Greenland, and the North and South Atlantic corridors. The Amazonas Nexus satellite has an all-electric propulsion system that makes it a lighter satellite and reduces the cost of putting it into orbit. And following deployment into this geosynchronous transfer orbit, the satellite's going to exercise a few of its systems to get into its final operational geostationary orbit. So coming up next, major milestone is payload deployment.
Okay, you should see the decoupler unbuckle right here, and the satellite will go that way. Or that way. Watch right here. You'll see it unbuckle. There it goes.
Payload separation confirmed.
Perfect.
And there is a great shot from the top of the second stage.
Adios,
watching
amigo.
the Amazonas Nexus satellite continue on with the rest of its mission. But that is going to end our webcast coverage for today.
Acquisition of signal, Maldives.
All of us here at SpaceX want to thank our customer Hispasat for entrusting us with today's mission. We also want to give a shout out to the Range and Federal Aviation Administration for supporting today's efforts. Today's launch concludes our 208th overall SpaceX mission to date and our 9th launch just this year. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, that was the Falcon 9 Amazonas Nexus mission for Hispasat. Good mission. Yeah, everything seemed normal there. I wish they showed second stage deorbit burn. Yep. It's probably bad PR to show your stage intentionally getting ripped apart. But then again, that hasn't stopped SpaceX in the past. But yeah, the mission will go on a little ways. It'll go until there'll be people basically on console until that second stage gets destroyed. Now, the thing is, or it runs out of batteries, either one. Now, for a super synchronous insertion, for a geostationary transfer insertion like this, What they'll do now is they will purposely put the stage into an orbit with its perigee basically below 120 kilometers. So they won't deorbit the second stage per se, but they'll put it into a decaying orbit. So it basically dips through the atmosphere every time it passes low, close to Earth, and it'll eventually deorbit and come down. It'll break up. So, yeah, fellas, now that's going to do it for me. That's going to do it for me. Something came up, and I have some stuff to do this week. I'm happy that one of the projects that I was working on has come to fruition, which is good. And I honestly am going to be gone probably, I would say at the very latest, next Monday. So I need to be somewhere else for the rest of this week. Are you training for a space flight in 1 week? I highly doubt that. So anyway, yeah, I know I want to play more Kerbal and we got to get all that stuff done in Kerbal 1, but this, yeah, it's just, yeah, I am required, one of these things, these background things that I'm working on, I am required in other places. So, yeah, I will see you guys probably, yeah, I would say, you know, at the very latest, probably Monday. Earliest might be a little bit before that. It really depends. So, yeah, can't really say where I'm going. It's just, yeah, Primo kind of spilled the beans a little bit earlier, but yeah, so we got to go to Michigan for a little while. So, worst case scenario, I'll see you guys in a week. Thank you very much for watching. Spread the word if people ask. Yeah, I know people ask. Like, if you're on Discord, where's EJ been? Yeah, that's top secret project, super secret squirrel project. It's a 53-month resub. So yeah, makes you wish you got the NASA RV as a mobile streaming rate. Yeah, kind of, man. So anyway, fellas, I will see you guys in a week. Take care. Worst case scenario, probably the 13th. If I had to guess, it depends on how long this project takes. I will tell you what it is in good time. Okay? So, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Thank you for all the support. I do appreciate it. I will see you guys in a week. Maybe. Maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. Depends. So, thank you very much, guys. I'll see you then.